We met at a grocery store between the bruised peaches and the discounted flowers. He noticed how I checked dates on milk cartons like a scientist. "You'd make a great mom," he joked, then blushed. I laughed, a little startled by how easily the word mom fit the air between us. We had coffee across the street in a place with sticky tables and a neon sign that couldn't decide if it was broken or poetic. He told me he liked lists. I told him I liked plans that lasted. That night he texted, "Get home safe, future listmaker." I saved his name as Elliot Light. Months slipped by like trains I could name by sound. His keys on my counter, my sweater on his chair, our toothbrushes leaning into each other like conspirators. "I want a family," he said, voice low, like a confession that might run off if spoken too loudly. "Me too," I answered, steady. We made promises in the small ways first, meeting each other's parents, keeping Sundays for us, saying no to late meetings and yes to slow dinners. And then the big ways, a lease with both our names, a ring he slid onto my finger in the kitchen because he said, "Moments don't need witnesses to be true." He pulled me into his chest and whispered, "You are my wife." I believed him so completely that the world seemed to click into place, a lock finally finding its key. Trying sounds hopeful until it becomes arithmetic. Days tracked, temperatures charted, hope graphed into peaks and valleys. I learned the language of my own body, like I was cramming for an exam. Cervical mucus, basal thermometer, 2-week waits that stretched into small eternities. Elliot bought me sunflowers on the months I bled, calling them bright consolation, and I pressed my face into their rough, pollen-dusted hearts to hide the sting in my eyes. "Maybe we're pushing," he said once, voice light, eyes tight. "Maybe it will happen when we stop trying." We booked a weekend out of town, a cabin with a deck that stuttered when you walked across it, and a lake that held sky like an old secret. We did what people do when they're told to relax. We performed ease. I laughed too loudly. He held me too gently. On the way home, I asked, "What if it never happens?" He squeezed my knee. "Then it doesn't, and I still choose you." I believed him because I needed to. We chose a baby name anyway, not to tempt fate, we said, but to greet it. We put the name on a sticky note inside a cookbook no one uses. I touched it sometimes when I couldn't sleep, a charm against a silence I was learning to fear. The 2 lines arrived on a Tuesday, thin as whispers. I took 3 tests, as if truth needed a quorum. I sat on the edge of the tub while the world recalibrated. Same tiles, same towels, and yet everything humming, charged. He found me shaking and dropped to his knees. "Is it?" I handed him the stick like it was an heirloom or a detonator. He laughed and cried at once, the sound of a man catching joy like it might run. "We did it," he said into my stomach. "Hi there." I told my mother on speakerphone and wept into the dish towel while she said all the wrong things. I knew it would happen. I prayed a hole through the sky, "You'll be a wonderful mother." We made an appointment. He put the date in his calendar with a lock icon, as if privacy could be guaranteed by an app. That night we lay awake measuring the future by kicks we couldn't feel yet. "Our baby," he said, saying "our" as if the word were newly minted. I slept with my hand on my belly, not to keep the baby safe, nature had that, but to keep the word "ours" from floating off in the dark. Pregnancy breeds paper, pamphlets, insurance forms, consent sheets. "It's an ocean of signatures," the nurse said brightly. I initialed boxes like I was building a raft. Elliot hovered, attentive. He brought crackers and judged hospital vending machines like a sommelier for snacks. We joked about baby classes, about how he'd faint at the sight of a placenta, and I'd pretend not to notice. One form had a field for marital status. I didn't hesitate. Married. He glanced at my pen. "Technically, we haven't filed the courthouse document yet," he said, chin tilting, a tiny correction dressed as care. "We had the ring, the vows," I countered. We said yes. He kissed my temple. "Yes," he echoed. all the yeses. He moved his hand over my belly like he was smoothing a sheet on a bed we'd soon be sharing with a third. "We'll do the paperwork, after," he promised. I signed wife with a curl on the F like a flourish a judge might admire. He didn't sign that day. The nurse said we could finish later. We left with a folder thick enough to block a bullet and a photo the size of a postage stamp. Our child a constellation of white flecks against a soft galaxy. Cracks disguised themselves as reflections. He stayed later at work, apologized with soups and new shows queued just for me. "It's the quarter," he said, or "my boss," or "I owe them." He missed a birthing class, but brought me a cupcake with a tiny pink shoe made of sugar. "We're not even finding out the sex," I said, laughing and crying. "It was the only one they had," he answered, sheepish. A bill arrived addressed to him at an apartment I didn't know. "Office sublease," he said without blinking. "Backup space when we pull late nights." He kissed the rim of my mug like it was my mouth. I let that be an answer. Friends asked about the courthouse, and I changed the subject. The ring on my finger felt heavier some days, like a weight and a question. At night he talked to the baby through my skin, voice soft as thread. "I'm your dad," he said, and I forgave the rest for the way those words gentled the room. Love is often a ledger with creative accounting. I told myself balance would come later, after diapers and dawns. Labor began like rain you don't notice until the street shines. A tightening, a breath, a wince I tried to hide by pretending to be brave. "We're timing," he said, launching a stopwatch like a rocket. The hospital smelled like lemon and dread. The nurse with the kind eyes said, "You're doing beautifully," which I know now is code for, "This will get worse before it gets better." Hours folded into themselves, the bed up, the bed down, a ball to lean on, another nurse, another check. I roared in ways that had no grammar. He wiped my forehead and reminded me to breathe like we'd practiced, like practicing ever makes anything easier. "I'm here," he said over and over, a broken record I wanted to smash and also cradle. The doctor appeared with her calm face and weather report voice. "You're ready," she said, like she was telling me the bus had arrived. Someone pressed a pen into my fingers. "Routine consents," a clipboard announced. I signed my name like it was leaving me. Elliot squeezed my hand. "Soon," he said. "We meet them soon." I believed him because there was no other option left. The pushing carved me open long before the incision did. Time stripped itself of numbers. There was only effort, and the cliff's edge, and the voice that said again. And then wet, warm, stunned, the cry a saw across a violin string, the room filling with that wrecking sound. They laid the baby on me, and every story I'd told myself about strength dissolved into salt. "Hi," I said, ridiculous, breathless. "Hi, love." Elliot cried without wiping his cheeks. "You did it," he said, as if I'd run a marathon while building the road. The nurse asked for names. I said the sticky note name we'd kept in the cookbook. It fit like it had been waiting in the air all along. They cleaned, weighed, pronounced. A social worker in soft shoes hovered in the doorway with another stack of papers. "Just signatures," she smiled. Outside, dawn whitened the blinds. Inside, I counted fingers, the world collapsing to 10 and 2, and the rhythm of a new lung deciding to stay. He took the clipboard while I nursed, my body a holy mess I loved all at once for what it had done. "I'll handle it," he said, quick, casual. The baby's mouth worked like a secret. I kissed the damp hair that smelled like metal and cotton. He flipped pages, signed where the sticky flags bossed him around. The social worker double-checked, nodding. "We'll get your wristbands updated," she chirped. "Who's the primary legal guardian for discharge?" "Mother," I said, automatic. The social worker's smile thinned. "Of course. For security, we also note relationship status." Elliot's pen paused. "Partner," he said. I looked up. "Husband," I corrected, soft, a reminder, a rope thrown. He cleared his throat. "For now, partner is accurate," he said to the paper, not to me. The social worker glanced between us, something unreadable passing over her face. "And this section?" she asked, pointing to a line I couldn't see. "Household Caregiver Acknowledgement," Elliot signed. She affixed a sticker to his copy, then to mine. The room seemed to tilt. "Can I see?" I asked. He kissed my head. "It's just routine," he said, moving the clipboard out of reach. The baby sighed, reattaching, trusting. I swallowed what felt like a stone. Routine can mean you won't notice until it's too late. A tech arrived with new wristbands, cheerful like a bell. "One for mom, one for baby, one for caregiver," she said, hesitating. She looped the pink band around my wrist, the smaller one around the baby's ankle, then gave Elliot a white band that didn't match. "That's not the father band," I joked, light as I could make it. "It's the authorized caregiver band," she replied, reading her screen. "Father," I said more firmly, pointing to Elliot. The tech squinted at the tablet. "It says Nanny Household Caregiver." The words didn't make sense in my mouth. "That's a mistake," I laughed, waiting for Elliot to laugh too. He didn't. He looked at the window like the sky had a better answer. "I didn't see all the boxes," he murmured. The tech shrugged, apologetic. "We can fix it if the paperwork says spouse or father." She checked the file again. Her face arranged itself into neutral. "It doesn't." My scalp prickled. "Elliot?" He lifted his hands, surrender mime. "It's just for discharge," he said. "We'll update later." The baby hiccuped. The sticker on my chart gleamed like a verdict. In the quiet that followed, I heard every machine in the room as if for the first time. Beep, hiss, click, each sound counting witnesses. "I need you to look at me," I said when the tech left. He kept his gaze stitched to the blinds. "There are reasons," he began, and I knew the speech was one he'd practiced, the syllables already broken in. "Legal reasons? Financial? Immigration? What reasons make you my child's nanny?" The last word snapped in the air. He sat too close and not close enough. "My parents' trust," he said. "There are conditions. Marriage without a prenup complicates." I laughed, sharp, wrong. "So you erased me to protect an account?" He reached for my hand. I pulled it back, heat scalding my face. "It's temporary," he insisted. "We fix it next week." "I swear." "Next week when?" I asked. "After the diapers? After you go back to your office sublease?" He flinched. "It's not like that." The baby fussed, a small storm brewing in a small chest. I held them, my voice melting. "Our child will not leave this hospital with a mother listed as wife and a father listed as staff." The word tasted like metal. He rubbed his brow. "Please, don't make a scene." I looked at the door, at the hallway where nurses walked with their calm shoes and brisk hands. "Maybe a scene is the only thing that will save me," I whispered. He closed his eyes like a man hearing thunder from too far away to matter. She came back with her clipboard like a shield. "I can walk you through the forms," she offered gently. Elliot sat rigid, a statue built from rationalizations. "The father signed here," she pointed, acknowledging responsibility for bills and transport, and here, listing himself as the household caregiver for early weeks. "And here," I said, voice steady, "where marital status reads not married, despite vows and rings and leases." She nodded, compassionate without agreeing. "For medical records, we go by legal status on file. We can add a note." "A note?" I heard myself laugh, a small crack in stone. "Can a note raise a child? Can a note open a locked door at 3 a.m. when security asks who you are?" She didn't flinch. "We can add father to the birth certificate once paternity forms are completed. We can document cohabitation. We can flag your chart for partner access. But the system will mirror the paperwork it has." I felt the ground of understanding shift under my feet, not collapsing, but exposing bedrock I hadn't wanted to see. "So I'm a wife in the rooms where love is spoken and a partner where signatures are required." She folded her hands. "I am sorry," she said, meaning it. "But I can help you draw a line from here to fair." I pressed my cheek to my baby's crown. Then draw it, I said. And don't hand him the pen. He took a call in the hallway, back turned, voice low. I shouldn't have heard, but walls in hospitals are thin when truth tries to make a point. Yes, he said, it's done. Caregiver status. Clean for now. The words stepped into my room like uninvited relatives. I watched him through the glass, the way his shoulders unknotted at someone else's approval. When he returned, I pretended to be asleep. He sat and watched the baby breathe, a soft look I didn't know how to trust anymore. We're a team, he whispered. It sounded like a slogan on a coffee mug. I thought of the sticky note in our cookbook, the name we'd chosen together, and wondered which parts of together were real and which were costumes we put on to spare ourselves the cold. My phone buzzed with my mother's texts. How are you? Send pictures. I love you. I sent a photo of a tiny hand gripping my finger, proof of a bond no form could edit. Then another message, unknown number. If you need a pro bono consult, I'm on call tonight. Nurse Lila gave me your name. I looked up. The kind-eyed nurse passed our door and didn't look in. A rope appeared in the water. I hadn't realized how far I'd drifted until then. She arrived in jeans and a blazer, hair in a storm-proof bun. I'm Mara, she said softly, friend of Lila's. I volunteer with the postpartum legal clinic. Elliot bristled. This is private, Mara nodded. And yet paperwork has a way of making private very public when it hurts the powerless. She turned to me. Tell me what you signed. Tell me what he signed. I explained between feeds and waves of afterpains. She listened like listening might shift gravity. Here's what we do, she said finally. You request to amend discharge status to reflect legal parent and guardian, you. You submit a contemporaneous statement that caregiver was marked without your informed consent. You request a social work addendum documenting informal marriage vows and cohabitation. And you decline to leave until the banns match the facts. Elliot stood. This is absurd, Mara met his eyes. What's absurd is turning a wife into staff to satisfy a trust. He swallowed. You don't understand. Then help me, she said. Make me understand why a man who says we on a Tuesday says she on a Thursday. He didn't answer. Mara handed me a pen. You don't have to be loud to be firm, she said. But if loud is what gets you through the door, I've got a voice too. We asked for the attending. We asked for the charge nurse. We asked for the administrator whose smile had the exact shine of laminated rules. We cannot alter truth to accommodate feelings, the administrator said. We can only alter records to reflect facts. Then reflect the fact that I carried. Labored. Birthed, I replied, the baby fussing against my chest. And that my partner signed a form implying I am domestic help. Elliot rubbed his temples. No one said help. Mara slid the clipboard forward. Nanny household caregiver, she read. I'm fluent in euphemism. This one is disgusting. The administrator sighed. We can annotate. She needs a matching band, Mara said. And he needs the correct designation, I added, surprising myself by defending a man I might not forgive. He is the father. If he wants that band, he earns it with the right form. Silence rearranged the furniture in the room. Finally, the administrator nodded. Fill these out, she said to Elliot. We will issue temporary corrections pending legal verification. He looked at me like a boy caught stealing apples, sorry and hungry. I met his look. Sign right, I said, or don't sign at all. Night brought a quiet that felt like a test. He sat by the window, the city making promises to no one. I thought protecting the trust would protect us, he said. Us from what? I asked. From the future. From losing choices. And you protected us by making me disappear. He winced. It was supposed to be temporary. So was labor, I snapped. Pain is real even when it's brief. He stared at his hands. My parents. They threatened to cut me out if I married without terms. I panicked. The baby sighed, a small wave settling. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Because I knew you'd say no to a contract, he whispered. I thought of vows said in kitchens and rings slid on tired fingers, and how grown men can still be boys when fear calls them home. You're right, I said. I would have said no. But you could have asked. We let the room listen to us breathe. Morning came with forms and new bands. The tech returned, contrite, and swapped white for blue. Father, her scanner confirmed. She handed me updated paperwork. Mother, legal guardian. Father, acknowledged. Marital status, domestic partnership, pending affidavit. It wasn't the whole truth, but it was closer. Mara hugged me like sisters do when blood isn't shared, but battle is. You have my number, she said. Use it. Elliot thanked her in a voice scraped thin. When we were alone, he sat on the edge of my bed. I'll fix it, he said. I'll tell my parents. About the baby, I said. About the marriage, I added. He nodded, a man agreeing to climb a mountain he'd hoped was a hill. I'll sign whatever you want. I looked at our child, lips milk slick, eyes drifting like they were mapping the future. I want truth, I said. On paper, in rooms, in the places where people can't pretend. He reached for my hand. I let him take it for now. Discharge is a parade of instructions. Feeds, diapers, what to fear and what to forgive. The wheelchair felt ceremonial and absurd. Elliot strapped the car seat with the concentration of a surgeon. I slid in beside the baby, half goddess, half wounded animal. At a light, he said, My mother will want to help. Your mother will want to manage, I replied. The baby squeaked. We both laughed, soft, the first laugh that didn't break on the edges. In the apartment, sun pooled on the floor like spilled honey. The sticky note with our chosen name fell out of the cookbook when I reached for tea. I pressed it to the fridge, a flag in a country I hadn't decided to stay in. That night, when the streetlights cut the room into ribbons, he whispered to the baby, I am your dad. I lay awake and whispered to myself, I am not the nanny. His parents came with gifts wrapped like apologies. His mother appraised the baby, then me, then the ring. Such a whirlwind, she said, meaning such a mess. Elliot cleared his throat. We're filing marriage paperwork, he announced. His father's mouth tightened. The trust, we'll manage, Elliot said, voice with spine. I watched him choose us with the same hands that had chosen fear and felt my anger blink, not gone, but startled. At 2 a.m., when the world was small and the crib was too big, the baby howled and I walked and walked. Elliot staggered out, hair a question mark. Team, he asked. Team, I said. And we learned the choreography of swaddle and sway, of lullaby lies whispered until they turned true. At dawn, I texted Mara, we're okay for now. She replied, for now is sometimes the bravest sentence there is. I keep the wristband, the wrong one, in a drawer where I store the things that almost undid me. A letter from a past life, a photograph with a truth tucked in the corner, the receipt from the night he promised forever over pasta and a burnt candle. I keep them not to hurt myself, but to remember the map I walked, the place where I turned back, the place where I went on. Some days forgiveness feels possible, like a new room with open windows. Other days I want to mail that white band to the trust's lawyer with a note that says, this is what your rules cost. Elliot makes breakfast and paperwork in equal measure, learning that love is a form you sign every day. He asks, are we okay? I answer honestly, we are working. When I kiss our baby's soft head, I taste everything, fear, milk, hope, salt. I whisper the name we chose and the words we're still learning to deserve. Family, marriage, home. They answer back in breath and warmth and that sleepy half-smile babies wear when the world is exactly as big as a parent's arms. One day, when small feet thunder down our hallway and the trust is just a dusty word in a drawer, I'll tell our child the story of their arrival. I'll say, the day you were born, we learned what papers can do and what they cannot. They can list and sort and limit. They cannot name love. They cannot erase a mother. If Elliot is there, and I hope he is, I want him to add, they cannot excuse a father. We will look at each other, weathered, honest, still choosing. I'll show our child the wristbands, the wrong one and the right one, and I'll say, we fought for the names that were already ours. And if anyone ever tries to rename me in rooms that don't know me, I will smile with all my teeth and all my history and say, I am the woman who carried and bled and stayed. I am the wife because I say so, and because truth said it first. Then I will make breakfast. The way resistance often looks like toast and fruit and someone humming in a kitchen where the windows are open wide.